What's good, everybody? This is the coach coming up on the episode. Who's going to win this week at the Memorial at Jack's Place? We're going to discuss. Also, two-time winner on the Korn-Ferry Tour the last 2 weeks, Cameron Young. Yeah, we've got him here as well. And we cashed 6 tickets last week. We've got more for you this week. Cash Out with the Coach. It starts right now. At the end of the day, it was Jason Kokrak that got it done on the PGA Tour last week. Jordan Spieth unable to get it done in his hometown. But all the time we're looking to the next week. Welcome into a brand new episode of Cash Out with the Coaches. I am the coach. He is Travis Fulton. And Travis, did you think that Spieth with a one-shot lead on Sunday was going to not be able to get it done? Hello.
Well, I mean, I think everybody was kind of anticipating Spieth to make a little bit of a run, but it's been kind of the equation that we've been seeing on the PGA Tour. Late on a Sunday, no one's making a run and putting pressure on the leader. And I think that was the case again at the Colonial or at Colonial Country Club. And Kokrak was able to do just enough. And he was leaking air, a couple errant shots there, 15, 16, 17, some hard pulls, silly bogeys. Spieth just wasn't able to hit that shot that could really put the pressure on him. And Kokrak was enough to get it done. But, hey, Spieth, another second place finish. It goes on. Kokrak, though, been a great story. 2 wins now, PGA Tour. Big difference has been in the putter. Goes to Bettinardi. He's like, hey, I'm not putting well. Let's make some adjustments. Learns a lot. They extend his putter. He's 36 inches now in his putter length. And off he goes. He's in the top 10 now in strokes gained putting. We know he's got distance. His iron game is good. His short game can get a little clunky. But when you putt like that and you counter with good approach game, you get a chance to win. And it was a great performance. Got to give him his props.
If I would have told you at the beginning of the season that on June 1st, the only 3 names that would have 2 wins on the PGA Tour would be Bryson DeChambeau, Stuart Sink, and Jason Kokrak, I wonder what the odds would have been for that trifecta. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible when you really think about it.
It is. Bryson, you could certainly go there, right? With the distance, no one's going to argue that. Stuart Sink at the age of 47. Okay. Playing on house money. Comes out with a new caddy, his son, and wins twice. Okay. He's won the Open Championship. I get it. You can take me there. Now here's Jason Kokrak, hasn't won in 200 and some odd events. And now all of a sudden he's going to win twice. All right, let's stop the boat. Right. Let's stop the boat a little bit. But that's golf. That just, you can turn it around. And when you take a weakness and you turn it into a strength like Kokrak did, all of a sudden you become a very different player. And he's a very different player now. He's a different Jason Kokrak. He can putt. He's no longer ranked 220th in strokes gained putting on the PGA Tour. He's 9th. So that's a big jump.
Even though he made some silly bogeys, he made some big-time putts in that final round as well, specifically on 13 to take that 2-shot lead. Before we look forward, and we're going to have an incredible guest that I'll get to in a second, one more thing from last weekend. A lot of people, including myself, won money fading Phil Mickelson because we thought it's just way too hard normally to go from a win on the PGA Tour and play the next week. He went from maybe the greatest victory of his career to still continuing to play on the PGA Tour. He had a horrible day on Thursday. Quote of the week, when he was asked about playing bad, he looked and he goes, you know what? I did play bad today. I didn't play well at all, but I still won the PGA Championship. And I was like, drop the mic, move on. And he ended up missing the cut by 1. He did really try on Friday, but I don't think anybody expected him to make the cut. But now moving forward, we're starting to see these big names really position themselves. And some names like the Sinks, like the Kokraks. I think with 14 events to go here on the PGA Tour, we're set for an incredible summer of red-hot golf. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And, these guys are taking advantage, really, when you look at it. They're the guys up top. There's been so many question marks. Like right now, who's the number 1 player in the world? I mean, Dustin Johnson has, I think, 1 top 10 in the calendar year.
Yep.
Justin Thomas is putting huge question mark. Morikawa's putting, huge question mark. John Rahm's been stuck in neutral. There's just Xander's kind of, where's he? So there's been a lot of question marks up top. Bryson's approach game hasn't been good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of opened the door, and you've got guys walking through, none more than Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth has taken full advantage. He's back. We know that. Just incredible consistent play. I think he's the best player in the world right now. Has been the most consistent throughout the year. He's the leader in the FedEx Cup. But yeah, all these other guys have walked through, right? Brooks, there's been question marks with his injury. Phil Mickelson put it together for 4 days. No one made a run at him on Sunday, and he got it done. Stuart Sink separated himself at Hilton Head. No one really made a run at him. Got his second win. And Kokrak separated with Spieth there in Colonial.
Mm-hmm.
Spieth didn't make a run at him. Shot 73 on Sunday. Kokrak with the win. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. When are the big names, Coach, are going to start to kind of move forward here and start showing their skill? I'm kind of waiting on it. Is it this week? John Rahm, does he defend? Does JT finally get his putting figured out, or is it going to be much the same?
We're going to talk about that in a second. If you're just joining us, welcome into Cash Out with the Coaches. We do it every single week. Every single week there is a PGA Tour event. Still our picks to come in just a little bit. Our guest this week, none other than the man who may be the hottest golfer in the world, Cameron Young. If you don't know about him, you'll definitely want to stay tuned for that interview. He's won back-to-back weeks on the Korn-Ferry Tour. If he can win this week in Raleigh, North Carolina, he went to Wake Forest. He would get the automatic golden ticket straight to the PGA Tour and wouldn't even have to worry about the playoffs. But let's look forward to this week. Muirfield Village is in the Memorial, one of the great stops on the PGA Tour. It's an invitational, so not everybody gets in. There's less golfers. It's an incredible course, but last year, as they were finishing the second straight week, 2 straight weeks on the PGA Tour played on this course last year, they were already starting to renovate, Trav, on the front 9. This is going to be a different Muirfield Village, but Jack said it's not going to be harder. It's going to be better, but there's going to be some changes that people on TV are certainly going to be able to see.
Yeah, there's going to be some changes, and I think the changes, that list got longer and longer when the backhoes came out there and they were moving, and Jack's like, hey, you know what? Let's move that bunker a little bit more over here and this and that. And, originally, Coach, and I know you'll appreciate this, but on the greens, the grass that they were struggling with was POA.
I haven't heard that in a minute.
All bent grass now at Muirfield Village, tee to green. The place is going to be flush. The back 9, a lot of changes. I think you look at, I think 10 and 11, they moved the green further to the left. There was no change on 12 and 14. 14, of course, that terrific short par 3 and the way the green sits, that back right, just such a great hole. 15, the par 5. I think a lot of changes to 15 going back up that hill and the way that they put some bunkers on the right-hand side to kind of protect that. I think the players are going to have more to look at when it comes to there. And then the green on 16, the par 3, it used to kind of slope away from him. Now it's kind of built up to where the green's going to be able to handle that shot a little bit easier. And then on 18, I think it sounds like, in listening to Jack, there's going to be the potential of maybe a new back right pin. They kind of softened the slope back there.
Okay.
They could go back left, but now it sounds like they can go back right. So the back 9's awesome. It's got the 5 most difficult holes on the course. The last 3, of course, 16, 17, and 18 are all you want. It's going to be a fun week. And, all these changes, some subtleties around the green, different shots around the green. I need a ball striker. I need someone that can hit a lot of greens and give themselves a lot of chances here at Muirfield.
There are 6 former Memorial champions in the field this week. Bryson DeChambeau won in 18. You already mentioned John Rahm is the defending champion. Patrick Cantlay is in the field. Jason Duffner is in the field. William McGirt is in the field. This is a tournament that you would think would be a bomber's paradise, but because it's so plush and because it's going to look spectacular on TV, but whenever they get there, this is one of the tournaments that kept their spot on the PGA Tour calendar. With all the pandemic and everything that's gone on the last couple of years, a lot of tournaments got moved around, dates got moved around, majors moved. This one kept its spot because it is so special, because it is Jack, and players love to get there. They love the milkshakes. They love the 3-year exemption if you win this particular tournament. That's a big deal. And so when you have the top 5 players in the FedEx Cup standings, you know this matters. And I also think, Trav, we're going to see over the course of the next 14 weeks, the top players in the country, or excuse me, in the PGA Tour, you're going to see them at tournaments that we wouldn't normally see them at, because I did PGA Tour Live last week, and a lot of the chatter I heard was how important players now are putting an emphasis on high finish in the regular season because of that $15 million at the end of the rainbow, that now it's that staggered finish in the Tour Championship. We knew this was going to happen, Trav. And now this is exactly what the PGA Tour wants. Get my top players to play more, to position themselves for the playoffs. It's perfect, and it starts this week.
Yeah, it does start this week. And remember last year we got back-to-back at Muirfield because Workday stepped in. Yeah. And Colin Morikawa won Workday, and then we went the next week, and it was John Rahm. They set the course up a little differently. And then, of course, they just kind of let it go there on the weekend. They had the backhoes ready to tear it up. But, when I think of Muirfield, it's a course that, of course, has Jack Nicklaus attached to it. So that in itself, players want to go and be a part of that. I think Spieth, in the back of his mind, this is one he wants to check off, right? He wants to win this one. He hasn't won it yet. I think this is on his radar. Like, I need to win at Muirfield and win Jack's tournament. Tiger's done it 5 times. You've seen the Bombers get it done here. Hideki's won here. But we've also seen a lot of first-time winners and unique names come to the top, like a David Lingmerth. Where the hell did that come from?
Where the hell did that come from?
Willie Dirt McGirt. So there's some those interesting names, guys that are not overpowering, prolific winners that have got it done here. But then we have seen the bigger names like a John Rahm, like a Tiger Woods, like a Patrick Cantlay get the job done. I'll tell you one thing about this course. You compare it to last week, you got much bigger fairways here. These fairways are wide. Okay, you've got some room off the tee. Now you get off there, you're going to have a little more rough to deal with, although Colonial had a little longer rough than it usually does.
Sure.
These greens are small. They're protected. You're going to see a lot of guys missing greens here more often than normal, right? So the short game, I think, has a lot more value here. Much more difficult short game shots around the green. It'll be interesting to see with all the changes, the subtleties of those, because there's going to be some probably new shots around the green. So we need a short game, bent grass greens. But, it's these guys that, you look at it, the way that these guys have won, they've done it different ways. I mean, guys have ball strike their way to winning, like a Jason Duffner. He was positive 10 in an approach. And then you look at a Rahm, he was kind of more short game and putting. He didn't crush it with his irons because it was tough conditions. It was more +6 strokes gained short game, +3 putting, and that's how he got it done. So I think you can kind of navigate this course different ways and get it done. But I always default to the ball striker. That's kind of my deal, and you'll see it in my picks here momentarily.
Well, you mentioned last year, because of the Workday event and how, I guess, easy the course played, the Memorial the very next week played the toughest it had played in 40 years. That's how hard that they set it up. So we'll see what the setup looks like this year with all of the changes. Still to come here on the show, we're going to have our picks where we give you out our $100, our couple of matchups, and our wild cards and our winners. But before we get into that, we are very, very honored at this point right now to have a guest this week who is arguably the hottest player on the planet. You're going to see his face. You're going to see his game on the PGA Tour very, very shortly. And we are anxious to talk to the back-to-back winner on the Korn-Ferry Tour right now, Mr. Cameron Young. Well, if somebody says, who's the hottest golfer on the planet, you might want to say our guest this week. Thrilled to have Cameron Young, back-to-back win on the Korn-Ferry Tour. And we've got a lot to talk about. Young man, first of all, congratulations. How did it feel to become just the 10th player in Korn-Ferry Tour history to go back-to-back 2 weeks in a row?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was really special. We obviously had a really nice couple weeks, and it hadn't necessarily been going so well before that. So to kind of get something going and feel what it's like to at least be around the lead, never mind to win once and then twice, has been a pretty awesome experience.
Cameron, I know you work with your dad. He's been your coach, David, throughout. And I saw in the quote after you won, you said your driving has been exceptionally good as of late. Maybe have you made some changes that have led to the driver, which sounds like has become more of an asset now for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I've worked very hard on over the last couple of years, because especially in college, I knew that was kind of my Achilles heel. That's what I struggled with, and that's what kind of kept me as more of an inconsistent player, I would say. Um, but yeah, we've worked a little bit messing around with the club itself that I use, just trying to make it suit what I want more. And then, yeah, I mean, just little swing changes. Just I think as I've gotten older, it's just kind of gotten a little bit neater, a little bit more clean, a little bit more consistent. And yeah, just all those little things are, I think, starting to add up to me being a more consistent driver of the ball, and turning it into something I do well, as opposed to something that I kind of worry about day to day.
One of the harder things to do on tour is, if you have a really good round, is back that up with another good round. You set a lot of records the last couple of weeks. One of them is you have the most consecutive rounds led on the Korn-Ferry Tour with 8, and 7 of those 8 were solo leads. How did you do it day after day after day?
I don't know. We've been very consistent in our game plan, and I think, with the solid golf I've played, that's turned into those leads. Obviously, I mean, the hardest part is getting off to the start. Thursday, just knowing, especially on the Korn-Ferry Tour, I mean, probably more than anywhere, if you don't shoot at least 7 or 8, you have no chance of being in the lead. Without, I mean, even in the conditions last week, we played Thursday in rain and wind and cold, and still I got to the golf course and Nick Hardy had shot 7 under. I was like, gosh, sitting there on the range, like, how am I going to break par today?
Yeah.
And so we kind of got off to a nice start. It was a couple under, and then all of a sudden, boom, hold a wedge, and then made another birdie coming in. So it turned, a nice round into 7 under, that was really the special one. And then once you're there, it's just playing some good golf, because you might be at the lead, and very rarely do people back up a low one. So once you're in the lead, if you shoot a consistent, solid round, 3, 4, 5 under par, I feel like most of the time you're going to be right around the lead. And it just so happens that I hadn't been passed.
Cameron, you went to Wake Forest. Another guy, Will Zalatoris. He's done okay, getting out there with his run on the PGA Tour. You guys have played a lot of golf. I know you've beat him many times. He's probably beat you in these rounds. You've got to look at Will and say, you got to look at Will and say, hey, I can do that. I can get out there on the PGA Tour and play, make cuts, compete. He was 2nd at the Masters, 8th at the PG. That's got to be pretty inspirational to you to see Will do that.
Yeah, of course. Obviously a peer of mine through college, a teammate. And yeah, of course, in college, I think it was pretty obvious to everybody that he was very, very good. And while we were there, he was better than all of us. He was kind of playing a different game at that point. He was more mature. He had more skills than I think the rest of the team did. But yeah, I mean, that said, I did still beat him once or twice. When I beat him, it was usually by 1, and when he beat me, it was usually by 12. But yeah, so I mean, just knowing that obviously he's had the success he has, and I've been around him enough to know that I can hang with him a lot of the time. I think he probably is still ahead of me in terms of obviously what he's accomplished. That's not a comparison at this point. But yeah, I mean, I know that he's someone that was going to have success, and being around someone that is going to be successful, it gives you a benchmark for like, okay, at least I know that's someone I have to chase, So it's been that way, and I've been chasing him since college. So I'm still out here doing the same thing.
But that chase may be a lot closer than people think now. For those people watching at home, if you win 3 times in a single season on the Korn-Ferry Tour, you don't got to worry about the playoffs. You don't got to worry about any of that stuff. You're a lock regardless because of the 2 wins. You're going to the PGA Tour next year. It's only a matter of when do you get there. I like the fact that the stars are kind of aligning, Cameron. You went to Wake Forest. The next event is in Raleigh, North Carolina. Have you thought about the fact that you could do this? Win 3 in a row, qualify in style, and you got friends and family right there. That's got to be something you had to have thought about a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I'd be crazy not to be thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, I've got some family in town. I got my wife coming tomorrow, my mom and dad coming in today, a bunch of family that lives around here. So it definitely has crossed my mind. And, that would be kind of obviously a dream come true, but even better than I could have ever imagined to get it done here this week.
The coach player combination, like that landscape continues to change. And, you think of, like, you work with your dad, as you mentioned, and, Justin Thomas has done that with his dad, Xander, with his dad. There's a lot of examples of that out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure through your career, there's, a lot of coaches, they can recognize talent. Like, hey, I want to get my hands on Cameron. This guy's, he can make it. I'm sure there's been guys come up, hey, maybe try a little bit of this or a little bit of this.
Yeah.
But you stayed true with your dad, who's been your only coach all the way through. That's a cool story. I want to get your dad on the podcast, and I want to talk to him, because I promise you, there's a lot of adults and parents that would like to learn from your dad and the job that he's done in growing you to where you are right now.
Yeah, no, he's a smart man. And he's been around golf his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows the ins and outs, and he's got to me, a very simple way of saying things. And he knows a lot about, all the mechanics of it and all the biomechanics of it and how your body works and how it all kind of ties in together. But he's got a very simple way of putting things. And especially, and he loves working with people too. He loves, especially if you get anyone that has, some talent for hitting the ball, even if their swing's not great, or he's really good with those types, because he kind of just understands, especially with athletes and guys that play other sports, that how to use your body to make something happen. And that's how he teaches. He's taught me to kind of use my body to make the club and the ball react to what I do, as opposed to trying to put it in certain places. And I think it's worked really well for me, and just the way that we communicate's been really great over, I've been alive 24 years now, so 24 years of coaching.
We're talking to Cameron Young. He's won back-to-back events in the Korn-Ferry Tour. He is poised and ready to jump forward to the PGA Tour. I know you made some jokes about Will Zalatoris being at Wake Forest a lot better than you at that particular point, but you have proven yourself now to be every bit as talented and as good as those on the PGA Tour. Is there a moment, Cameron, that you can remember that you said, you know what, I think I am good enough to get there and compete there and stay there?
Yeah. I don't know if there's a moment necessarily. Obviously, these last 2 weeks have been hard evidence that you can't really deny that I can do it. But I think that thought that I could, or that thought that I would eventually get there, has been in my mind for a long time. And I think if you asked anybody out there, they'd say something similar. It's not like all of a sudden, when I won a college event, like, hey, I think I can do it. It was when I got to college, or before I got to college, was, hey, I want to do this, and I don't know if I can yet. But I think just over time, it just grows, and the more you think you can, the more it becomes reality. And I'd bet a lot that most of the guys in the PGA Tour and the guys that have been successful would say, I thought, or I knew I could do this for a long time, long before anybody else thought so. So I mean, really the same there. I think it's been something I've wanted to do and something I thought I could do for a long time, and it's just starting to become, a potential reality for me.
I got one more question for you. Give us a name or two. Obviously, you're an up-and-comer. We're going to see you on the PGA Tour, but give us a name or two on the Korn-Ferry that, man, this dude can go. He is good.
Yeah.
He is. Who is it?
Let's see.
I know there's a bunch.
Yeah. I mean, over the course of the year, obviously Stephen Yeager's leading the points list. And he's been to the PGA Tour, and he's been back to the Korn-Ferry Tour. He's won a lot on the Korn-Ferry Tour. He's just a very solid player, and there's really no getting around it. He's been kind of week in, week out, just about the best of all of us. I think I know Taylor Pendrith has had a lot of success on the Korn-Ferry Tour. I see him down in Florida a good bit. Very good player, hits the ball a mile. Those two guys I think will do very well. He owns Davis Riley as well. I've known him for a long time. He was going back to junior golf, and he was always very, very good. He's a guy that has been perhaps not as consistent, but has won twice. And he's someone that, his best golf is as good as anybody. So those are definitely some guys that I would look for.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think those three will do really well.
Well, I tell you what, our fans at home that are watching right now, if you haven't seen this guy play, he's got thighs that are as big as tree trunks, and he hits it a long way too. Impressive, to say the least, in person. You were a gentleman 7 months ago when we met. You're a gentleman today. Thank you for taking the time. And we're going to be watching, man. We can't wait to see if you can pick up that third victory, but certainly when you get that PGA Tour card, I know it's going to be a proud moment. So congratulations, and we'll talk to you down the road, all right?
Thank you very much. Thanks for
Cameron.
Yep. Time.
But I tell you what, how cool is he? Humble. Clearly, he's got a ton of game, and the future is very, very bright for Mr. Cameron Young.
It's just amazing. Every time you hear these stories, like there was some struggle, right? And then all of a sudden he kind of started piecing it together. Mm-hmm. Some things came together. He wins one, and then he comes back and he wins again, right? There's just so many stories like that. Skill is there. It's just getting the pieces to come together, getting that little extra confidence, maybe a bounce here, a bounce there. And that's the difference. Really fascinating, though, Coach, to hear him admit to the gap between him and Will Zalatoris and just how special of a player Will Zalatoris was at Wake Forest and clearly is on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and I tell you what, if you've never been to a Korn-Ferry Tour, they really set those courses up fairly easy, or they're at courses that are easy to score because they're not the PGA Tour. To lead 8 straight rounds on that, like he said, when you show up and a guy's already shot 7 under before you even tee off, mentally strong. Yeah. Mentally strong to be able to still go out there. He tied Nick Hardy with that 7 under on Thursday and then led Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Super, super cool. And thank you to Cameron for joining us, taking the time on a very busy week for him. All right, let's get into our picks this week. And last week we cashed 6 different tickets. That's right. We cashed 6 different tickets. We tell you all the time, it's about the head-to-head matchups. Understand the grind, money management. Head-to-heads are where you're going to make your money, and then lower your bet just a little bit on the props because they're much harder to hit. So here's what we do. We take $100 and we spread it out over 5 different picks. 2 head-to-head matchups, great graphic. Cody, top 20, a tournament winner, and a wild card play. It could be anything on the board. So, Trav, let's start with your first head-to-head matchup. Are we going big game hunting today?
Big game hunting. My first head-to-head. Let's keep this flow going here. I'm going after you again, JT. I beat you down last week with Spieth, and I told you I was going to do it. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to do it again this week with the defending champion, Jon Rahm, minus 125 over JT. Now, JT's got to feel somewhat encouraged. His putter did show some life, but it's pretty much has not been cooperating at all since the Players' Championship. And, I talked about, I think he's been frustrated with his game. The putter hasn't been there. And I think he's ready for it to be there, have his A game, because his good buddy Spieth is there. And I think he's ready to go head-to-head with Spieth and show him that, look, I'm a better player than you are right now, and I know you are a better player than I was when we first got started. So JT's going to kick out of this. I don't think it'll be this week. This place is made for Jon Rahm. He was clearly the best player last year. He had an 8-shot lead coming in on Sunday. He's been stuck in neutral a little bit. We've talked about here on the show. But he did show some good signs. I think the last couple weeks, it feels like the Jon Rahm is starting to flow. The equipment, I think it's taken longer than anticipated, the change in equipment to get used to that. But we kind of feel like maybe we're getting past that a little bit, coming to a place that he likes. Jon Rahm, we'll wait another week on JT, minus 125.
In my personal picks a week ago, I faded JT with a couple of different guys, and I had him 3 different days on PGA Tour Live over the weekend, and he's really struggling with his ball striking. And the numbers may not actually bear it out because he got a couple breaks here and there, but I watched every single stroke for 3 days, and he's not hitting like JT of old. And on a course like Colonial, or when you come to a course like this, if you're just a little bit off on your driving and you go into that really juicy rough, it's going to cause you, when you have a carry and there's like a creek in front of the green, that's a stroke penalty essentially. And right now, that's what he's doing. He's costing himself strokes. He was able to make the cut, but he did nothing over the weekend. I love that pick. I don't think right now he's going to flip the switch at this difficult golf course.
It's a cycle. Real quick, it's a cycle we've seen so many times. Bad putting, leaks into the rest of the game. You start getting more aggressive with your ball striking, and then all of a sudden that starts to fall off. And I think that's what's happened with JT, to your point. He hasn't hit the ball anywhere near like he has the last 2 weeks, and the putter's still very much a question mark. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Rory, Ricky, JT, Jordan, they all went through it. Just like you said, the putting started to strike, and then it works backwards. Speaking of Rory, my first matchup looks a little something like this. I'm going to go with the 2018 champion here, Bryson DeChambeau, minus 135. I'm going to put $30 on it over Rory. And Rory had his good 2 weeks. And at the PGA, he once again reverted back, Trav, to what he was doing at the beginning of the year. He really didn't know which way his ball was going to go. And his misses caused him strokes penalties. And he was in the pluses all week long. The cut, of course, came at +5 or +6. But Rory has not found it yet. Wells Fargo was an outlier. It was not an example of him turning the corner and coming back and playing Rory type of golf. I think Bryson does have his game together, and I think he loves this place. He showed it in 2018. And all I need him to do is beat Rory. I think he does that very easily this week.
Bryson's got to get that approach game going, Coach.
I know.
His irons haven't been good. His driver, yes, I get it. But when he won back here in 18, he won with his putting first and foremost, positive 5.5, and then his approach was just under 4. So, yeah, it's just so many. Like we said earlier, there's just so many question marks with a lot of these big players, right? We know Rory wins, but he kind of did it with a putter that was extremely hot.
Mm-hmm.
So is he going to come in and start splitting fairways and show the precision with the irons? I don't know. Is Bryson ready to get the approach game back on track? There's just a lot of question marks there. But
for most of these big time players, they're not going to play the event next week, which is the last event before the U.S. Open. So this is it. This is it. All right, let's go to our second head-to-head matchup. And what are you looking like? What do you like with your second one, Trav?
Well, second head-to-head. This is kind of unlike me. This is a little bit unlike me to go against my boy, Corey
I know
Connors.
You love Corey Connors.
But here's what I'm seeing with Connors all of a sudden. You know, we know he's going to win in the approach game. He lives in the positive 5 world in the approach game. His driving's good. We get all that. But I'm seeing this trend again now where the short game and the putting's living in the red consistently, right? And we went through a period there, I think early in the year, February, March, like it was going the other way. So no surprise to see his finishes like they were, where he had 4 top 10s in 5 weeks. Now all of a sudden he's starting to dip out of the top 20 more. It was 20 at the Charles Schwab. But it's just the short game is what's concerning me again. I want to see the Corey Connors get the ball up and down more often. So that kind of freaks me out a little bit here on this place, because I talked about, I think you need that, right? I think you need that here on this golf course. Hideki clearly can get that done. The most underrated wedge player on the planet. The dude's short game is so good, and he's hitting the ball exceptionally well, clearly winning the Masters. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I almost played Hideki to win. I think his ball striking is terrific. I think his short game's terrific. He clearly knows a thing or two about putting these greens. So Hideki over Corey, but I'll have some money on him to win too.
And he's had his comeback week now. His comeback weeks now. He took an entire month off. He had to live in a hotel for 2 weeks. Couldn't even see his family. It was crazy just to go home and celebrate the Masters win. He is now back here. He doesn't have that distraction anymore. He's played a couple of weeks ago. So now I think he can really be laser focused this week. And I wouldn't have hated that pick to win, to be honest with you. But all he has to do is beat Corey Connors, and I think he can certainly do that this week. All right, my second matchup. I'm going to go with the guy that won on this course a year ago, but not at this tournament. And I didn't write down the handle, Trav, but there was some guy on Twitter that loves, everybody loves to be the smartest guy in the room. Now, you're the experts, but let me prove how dumb you are. So, I said Xander hasn't really been Xander-like. And they're like, well, he was 11th here, 25th here. The last month, Xander has not been Xander-like. He's backed into a couple of good finishes, but he hasn't. When you go head-to-head against big names every single week, it's not like he's going head-to-head that we can play against Ricky Fowler or Kevin Na. He's always against guys like Colin Morikawa. And that's the level that he has to play out, even in the gambling world. And that's what we're talking about on the show. And as far as that's concerned, when he has to go big game hunting every single week, that's difficult to do. So I'm going to take Colin Morikawa minus the 115 over Xander Schauffele. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know even if Xander has the game to make the cut right now. I don't even know if he has the game to make the cut right
Missed
now.
the cut at the PGA.
Yep, and I won 2 different personal bets fading him and fading JT. It just was one of those weeks. I think this is going to be a week that if you can find somebody, if it's not Colin at your sports book, find somebody else. I'm okay with fading Xander across the board.
Yeah, I think I agree with that clearly. Xander's just, man, the tee to green game has just kind of fallen off. Putter's lukewarm, and it's just kind of a whole lot of blah. But then
he gets these numbers, Trav, because he had some good finishes a while back. That's why his FedEx number is good.
Mm-hmm.
But and then that's where Vegas sees. They go, oh well, he's like 13th or 15th. But look at what he's done the last month.
Yeah.
Or 6 weeks.
Right. Yeah, 3 straight top fives.
Vegas. Yeah.
3 straight top fives to start the calendar year. 3rd at the Masters. Right. That was clearly his best event of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. I think he's just spinning his wheels a little bit. And it just seems to be a little bit of everything. It's just kind of everything's kind of just But with Xander, that kind of blah can be a 14th at Wells Fargo. But when you're going against, to your point, Colin Morikawa, who, is ball striking, royalty.
Exactly.
Yeah, ball striking royalty. If he makes anything, he's going to win by 6.
Mm-hmm.
You better bring it in all phases.
All right, our next pick, it's going to be a top 20. Who do you think that comes Sunday either has a powerful, easy sweat top 20 like Charlie Hoffman a week ago, or we're going to back into a top 20 this week?
Well, Charlie Hoffman, we were on him last week, and I think I'm going to go back to Hideki.
I like it
this week. I think Hideki really likes this place a lot. We're past the Masters now. He's settling in. All right, Hideki, next step. Let's start putting your foot down and start running now a number of top 20s, and perhaps, as I mentioned earlier, get yourself another win. The Masters was a great performance, clearly on Sunday. When you look at him since he's come back, Byron was his first week back, which is always difficult. He actually played very well. His short game wasn't up to snuff, which that's not Hideki-like. But then he comes back to the PGA. He finishes 23rd and just putts terribly, which we're kind of used to. You have those for Hideki, right? He's going to have those tournaments where he just looks like he's lost on the greens. But I've been very encouraged here through this entire stretch. His ball striking has been really good. His approach game is very solid. His short game, we know, is very solid. And you just kind of roll the dice a little bit on the putter, with Hideki. But you play the split. Bent grass is certainly one of his best surfaces. Bermuda, not a fan for Hideki. Bent, I'll sign up. Muirfield Village, he's won here. I'll sign up for Hideki, top 20.
I like it a lot. And sometimes when you're playing a betting card, people don't want to double down because they're like, that guy has to. But if you feel really bullish about a guy in a head-to-head, then why not double down on him on the top 20? So I like this play. I like it a lot. My top 20, we cashed last week in the top 20, and he's really starting to quietly get his game back. And I'm talking about Gary Woodland. And I'm getting plus money, plus 200 for a top 20 pick, which is a really, really good number. It's good value on a player of his quality. The reason it's at plus 200 is because before the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's been awful in the calendar year. But now he's starting to get his game back. Now he's showing up on leaderboards, and I think right now at plus 200, you're giving me a lot of value. I'll take Gary Woodland coming off a T14 at the Colonial, which is certainly not a course that's made for his power. And now coming to a much bigger ballpark this week, I think gives him more of an advantage. I like him top 20. Book it, lock it in.
He was just outside the top 20 in 2020. You get it? T22.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
T4 back in 2016. T23 in 2018. So he's certainly knocking on the door there. Gary's he's just an interesting guy to me, man. He's such a great guy, first and foremost. But, him bouncing around from Butch to another teacher to Justin Parsons back to Butch, it's just been kind of a fascinating roller coaster to watch here in his performance. I think it's a good bet. I think he's just kind of went back to the simplicity of what he knows how to do in his swing, and it's paid off. His ball striking's been good as of late, and his putting's been has been pretty good. So I think this is a good bet. I think Gary's where he needs to be with Butch. Stay there.
Well,
quit jumping around.
I also think that he's getting comfortable with the weight loss, and for a long time he lost significant amount of weight. I think that affected him a little bit on the Swede and connect a swing. Connecting everything. I think that mattered a little bit. I think he's comfortable now. All right, let's get into our winner for the week. Who do you think is going to put 4 good rounds together, or 3 with an average 4th round, and could hoist the trophy come Sunday?
All right, so I'm going back to Colin Morikawa. I tell you, oftentimes I'm a week late on these, and I've been a week late 1 or 2 times, and I was almost a week late again on your boy Koepka, right? So I'm gonna jump out ahead of this with Morikawa because, I mean, first and foremost, Colin Morikawa does everything he needs to do to win except one club, right? His driving is so good. His iron game is so good. I mean, it's like Tiger-esque. I was looking through some of the numbers when Tiger was dominant in his approach game, +8, +7. There was a tournament. It was a WGC. He was +12 strokes game approach.
That's like, stupid. That's just stupid.
It is, right? But then you look at Colin, and it's like just +8, +7, +8, +9. I mean, it's like Tiger. I mean, it is. That's what we're talking about here with his irons. He's not as long as Tiger. He's not as dominant with the driver as Tiger. Mm-hmm. But irons, yes. The putter, one good putting week, he wins. Right? Okay. I mean, that's where we're at. If he putts good, he wins. So here you go, Colin. You ready? Here's this is his lesson. Okay. You ready?
Okay.
All right. So his putter, when it swings through, Coach, here we go. It wants to swing up kind of soon. That's what you see when players help it. It wants to swing up too soon.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go a little more kind of down. It's going to feel more down. It's not down. It'll be more level, but lower abbreviated finish. Okay. So not up to a longer finish, lower abbreviated finish. If he does that, +3 strokes gained putting, win number 3.
I could not believe I had Colin also for 3 days on PGA Tour Live last week. I couldn't believe how bad his putting has gotten. Could not believe how bad his putting had gotten. He missed, I believe, 3 or 4 from inside of 4 feet that didn't even scare the hole.
Yeah.
Didn't even scare the hole. And then he's got the new putting grip and he's kind of all over the place, but yet his record is amazing because of that ball striking. But at some point, like we've discussed, like other guys, if he doesn't fix the putting, then there's going to be pressure to hit it within 6 feet every single time. And that is not a good thing for your psyche or for your game or for the pressure you put on yourself to hit it close every single time.
See, the interesting thing is like you go back to the beginning of the year, he goes 7th out of the gate in Hawaii, both events. And then he goes to Genesis, finishes 43rd. He loses 7.6 putting, okay? But his ball striking is through the roof, right? Kind of where we are right now. Then he goes to the next week and goes +4. See you later. Thanks for coming. He wins the WGC. Okay. So here we are, 7th RBC, 8th PGA, 14th Charles Schwab. Same kind of ball striking, just the same stuff. Good enough to win. Not trending as bad with the putter, although the short ones are the concern. I mean, I'm telling you, it would take +2.5 and he wins.
I want a head-to-head. I want a head-to-head with him over JT last week at Colonial. He's so good that his top 20 numbers, his odds are always one of the worst because Vegas understands that you just ripped it off. You just said even bad weeks, he's a T14 or T16. That's not good for him, but it's good for a top 20 finish.
Yeah,
it's good for a cash. So that's why they made his numbers so big in that top 20 world. And most people who bet don't understand that. And you need to understand why the numbers are the way that they are. All right, let me jump into my winners now. And I'm going to stay with the young guns because we can't continue to have all these high finishes and not cash a ticket for a winner when it comes to Viktor Hovland. So I'm going to go +1,800. Our sweet spot is that, like, Morikawa is 1,700 for you. I like the 25-3 because it's just so difficult to pick a winner and just sprinkle a little bit. But I think Viktor Hovland matches up well for this course. Obviously, they've only been out here a couple of times on tour, as far as a couple of years, rather. But I think Viktor is starting to figure out that he's good at every single place. And if he can avoid the big number, that's his problem. It's the big number in the short game. Then I think Viktor Hovland has the game to win this week amongst all the big stars at the Memorial.
Yeah, he's got the game. He can play anywhere, right? Short game's getting better. The rest of it's solid. Yeah, I like it. Hovland and Morikawa, right? That's our two. We're going young guns. And
That'd
here
be
we
fun.
go.
If it came down to these two, you don't think our text wouldn't be firing back and forth on Sunday? That's for damn sure. All right, quickly, we got a wild card to get to, and then we're going to wrap it up. Who do you like? Anything on the board? Any play on the board that you like this week? What do you got?
Well, I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. I'll give you a name.
Who?
Dougie Gim, plus 250. Right, I've been kind of waiting on this. Yeah, 14th of the Schwab last week.
Oh, you're betting him to miss the cut?
Yeah, no. Dougie Gim, his putter actually was in the bag. Doug is like Morikawa. The putter shows up. I think it'll be a top 20. He's not the ball striker Morikawa is, but he's very good. His iron play is really, really strong. So we go to a place he's never played before. Why not? Can't hurt. As far as with the putter. So Doug Gim. Now I'm going to give you a putting lesson. You ready for this?
Please.
Doug Gim. Here's what I want you to do.
You know he's watching right now, too.
Easy back, easy through. Easy back, easy through. See that? 1, 2.
They better listen because you gave me lessons, and I changed my game in 30 seconds with you teaching me last week. 1, 2. Come on, Doug Gim. 1, 2. 1, 2.
I mean, it has to be so frustrating. Because they know, especially Morikawa, like he is such a superior ball striker Gim's a brilliant ball striker on tour. And just like this one, oh my God, now I got to putt again. It has to be
incredibly frustrating because then you also know you're costing yourself points and money and there's only so long you can work at it too. Because if you go out there and you putt for 8 hours, that's not necessarily the right answer either. You've got to figure it out, but not burn yourself out.
Right.
And there's a lot of frustration there. So we also know that the 20 names are not going to be all top names. So sometimes you got to pick guys that are off the beaten path a little bit. I don't hate this. Plus at plus 250, you get some value.
Hey, I'm sprinkling plus, I think it's 110 to 1. I'll sprinkle a little to win. I mean, hey, we're going to do this show and you're going to tell me you're going to pick David Liedenmirth. You're going to take Dirt McGirt. Right.
The year that Liedenmirth won shocked everybody. And I think everybody thought on Sunday, he's going to give it back. He's going to give it back.
Duffner.
He never did. Jason Duffner, too. So
keep in mind, Duffner
maybe worth
won
a little
here.
Sprinkle on Doug Gim.
I am going to. Duffner won here, negative strokes gained putting.
I'm actually going to sprinkle real money on Stewart Cink. I don't think he can win a third time, but I was looking at those numbers that really give you like the plus 18,000s, the plus 20,000s. Stewart Cink, despite 2 wins, is still way up there. So I may sprinkle a little bit on him this week, too.
Okay.
All right, my final pick this week, I'm going back to the well. Why people don't continue until it breaks, I've never understood. Charlie Hoffman, I know he doesn't have a great record here, but he is an absolute top 20 machine. Last week, he had a top 5 finish. Easy cash for us because we had him in a top 20 play. I think he's going to continue to play well week in and week out, Trav. He's playing really, really good golf, and I think he's got the confidence back. I think he has the motivation. This will be, I'm assuming he won't play next week. He doesn't need to. Even though it's at a new course, it'll be interesting to see what kind of field they do have the week before the U.S. Open. So I assume this will be it for Charlie Hoffman. Plus 160 for a guy who's been automatic, shot a 62 to get into contention last week. Lock it in, top 20 Charlie Hoffman.
He's playing great golf. He really is. It's fun to watch. It almost like he just hasn't played well here for whatever reason. But if this is a different Charlie Hoffman coming in, he has really been impressive this year. Where the hell is Charlie Hoffman? Hoffman!
All right, before we get out of here, this is kind of the official start to summer. We're recording it on June 1st. 14 events left on the PGA Tour schedule of 50 this year. It's crazy number. And we look forward to this event so much. Your final thoughts, Trev?
Yeah, this is a fun event. It really is. I've been there a couple times. Muirfield Village, did PGA Tour Live there years ago. And it's just a beautiful place. Walk around. Can't wait to see the changes. Terrific field. Golf is flowing. What big name's going to step up here, right? Spieth's going. Who's going to start a run? It starts this week, I think. Who's going to start a run and get hot here for the rest of the summer and go, just like we saw DJ do last year?
The top 5 in the race for the FedEx Cup, they will tee it up this week. It doesn't get any bigger. It doesn't get any better than that. All right, don't forget to follow us on social media. And, of course, follow our incredible sponsors at Sports Pub Media on Twitter and on Instagram as they continue to grow the brand. And we want to be the premier show and the premier brand in all of golf. in all of golf betting. That's going to do it for us, for Samantha, for Cody, for everybody at Sports Pub Media. He's Travis. I'm the coach. Remember, if you're going to cash every single week, why not cash out with the coaches?
Yep.
Hey guys, what's good? This is the coach. You may know me from PGA Tour Live, the Golf Channel, or even ESPN. I wanted to interrupt this YouTube video real quick to tell you how to get the best and most entertaining golf betting content every single week, and it's all for free. It's called Cash Out with the Coaches. I've teamed up with legendary golf instructor Travis Fulton, and he's also a PGA Tour insider, to bring you the unscripted, unfiltered PGA Tour betting talk and analysis. All you have to do is subscribe to Sports Pub's new channel, and you'll get access to our Cash Out with the Coaches show before every single PGA Tour event. You can also play along with the coaches, too. We don't hold anything back on this free show. And all you have to do is subscribe to Sports Pub's channel with the button on the video, and you'll have access to every single show. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Can't wait to see you on the channel.